Chardae's 1001 Nights, adapted by Craig Hansen from the Scheherazade story in the Arabian Nights. When Sultan Malik first came to power, the people of Persia rejoiced. Unlike his father, a harsh and merciless ruler, Malik listened to his subjects and often freed those he judged to be falsely accused of wrongdoing. Many people also admired the Sultan's lovely wife, Khalila, judging that it was his great love for her that aided Malik in ruling so wisely. Khalila was everything Malik could want in a wife: a gracious hostess, a talented singer, a thoughtful advisor, and a trustworthy friend. For 7 years, Malik and Khalila ruled Persia with fairness and justice. Then in the rainy season of their 7th year, Khalila came down with a grave illness. The court doctors did what they could to save her, but nothing worked. The sickness overtook Khalila so suddenly that she died within a week of the day she first fell ill. The Sultan ordered a monument built to the memory of his beloved Khalila, and when the rainy season ended, he buried her beneath the monument in the east corner of the royal courtyard. All the people of Persia mourned with their ruler. On the night of her funeral, when he was alone at the site of her grave, Malik swore, "By Allah, I shall never love another Khalila as I have loved you." A full year passed as the Sultan mourned for his dead wife. Each day he spent hours sitting beside her grave. He began to neglect his official duties and became short-tempered with those who came before him seeking justice. The people of Persia grew worried, for Khalila had never given birth to an heir. In spite of this, the Sultan showed no signs of wishing to marry again. Finally, Jamal, the great vizier, and the Sultan's most trusted advisor, confronted Malik. "O great Sultan, rule forever," Jamal said. "If I may be so bold, do you not think it is time to take a new wife?" "Why should I take a new wife?" Malik said, his voice weary and bitter. "The woman I loved is dead. Who could ever replace her?" "This is not just about you, Malik. You are the Sultan. The people expect you to produce a wise and benevolent heir who will follow in your footsteps." At this, Malik grew agitated, but he understood the value of Jamal's advice. "Perhaps you are correct. Seek out a new wife for me. I shall give you 1 year, but be forewarned, I will do this for my people, for I can never love again." So Jamal set out on a journey across the great land of Persia in search of a woman who could please the still grieving Sultan. He talked to many women, all of whom were eager to marry the Sultan. When a year had passed, Jamal returned with the woman he felt would most please Malik. "O great Sultan, rule forever," Jamal said with a flourish. "I have completed my journey, and behold, I present to you Rihanna, daughter of Salim, your most faithful subject in the mountains to the north." When Rihanna entered, Malik was amazed, for she looked exactly like Khalila. "You have served me well, Jamal," Malik said. "Let the wedding preparations begin." Now it was the custom of the land that if a wife displeased her husband, he could divorce her by simply telling her so 3 times. Such women were then forced to return to the house of their fathers in disgrace, unable to marry again. For as long as anyone could remember, no sultan had ever divorced his wife, because it brought great shame not only on the woman, but on the royal throne as well. But on the night of their wedding, Malik asked Rihanna to sing him a song before bedtime, just as his beloved Khalila had done. "I'm sorry, but my singing is so poor. I'm afraid it will offend your ears," Rihanna said. At this, Malik became angry and told Rihanna, "I divorce you." The next day, Malik invited some visitors from a distant kingdom to a great party thrown in their honor. But when they arrived, Rihanna did not greet them in the accustomed manner. No one had ever taught her the fine points of court etiquette. Again, the Sultan grew angry, and in front of his guests told Rihanna, "I divorce you." Soon after, when Malik told Rihanna he had to leave the court for a few days to supervise the defense of a province that had been attacked by enemy forces, she blurted out, "Please do not leave me." Malik then knew he had made a mistake and told his wife, "You are a bad advisor, for you put your own needs ahead of those of the people of Persia." Then for the 3rd time he said, "I divorce you. Go, return to the house of your father." And so she did. The next day, Malik met with the Grand Vizier and was greatly displeased. "How could you disappoint me so? Rihanna may have looked like Khalila, but she possessed none of her talents. Go find me a better wife." So once again, Jamal searched throughout the land for a woman who would please the Sultan. At the end of a year, he returned with another young woman. "O great Sultan, rule forever. I present to you Medina, daughter of Khalil, your most faithful servant in the southern desert. She has been well schooled in the duties of the wife of a sultan." Medina also bore a strong resemblance to the Sultan's first wife, and so they were wed soon thereafter. As the days passed, Medina seemed to live up to Malik's high expectations. She was a gracious hostess and proved to be a wise advisor. An entire month had passed, and although Malik did not love his new wife, he began to trust her. One night, after she had finished singing to him, Malik told Medina, "Please check the room for snakes." Medina checked the room, and finding none, reassured the Sultan he had no cause for concern. But he told her, "Tell this to no one, for I do not wish others to think I fear snakes." Medina agreed, but the very next day the Sultan found her discussing the matter with Jamal. Malik burned with rage. He stared harshly at Medina and shouted, "I am betrayed. Medina, I divorce you. I divorce you. I divorce you. Now go, return to the house of your father." Medina fled the palace in tears. Jamal confronted the Sultan immediately. "O great Sultan, rule forever. You know the law says a man can have only 4 wives. Already you have had 3. You cannot keep divorcing every woman I bring you." "Who shall stop me?" Malik demanded, for his heart had grown cold. "I am the Sultan. I make the laws. If I wish to marry every woman in the kingdom and divorce them all, I shall. Now go, find me a new wife." As Jamal left the palace to prepare for his journey, his heart grew heavy. He believed no woman could ever win the Sultan's heart. And so it was that word of the Sultan's foul temper spread throughout Persia, faster than the Grand Vizier's camel could carry him, and no woman would agree to marry the Sultan because they all feared him. Now the Grand Vizier had 2 daughters of his own. The youngest, Diana, was a simple young woman who enjoyed the ordinary tasks and pleasures of daily life, and had no desire to live in a palace. But the Grand Vizier's oldest daughter, Chardae, was not only beautiful and wise, but as independent as the wind. Several years ago she had run away to see the world. So it was that when Jamal returned from his unsuccessful journey to find the Sultan a 4th wife, he was greeted at the door by Diana and Chardae, who had recently returned from her travels. "Daughter, you have returned to me," Jamal said joyfully when he saw her. He embraced her warmly. "Have you now come to your senses and given up your rebellious behavior?" Chardae responded with a smile. "Father, you are the one who called me rebellious. I told you when I left that I wanted to see the world, and so I did. What is wrong with that?" "But traveling alone is not allowed for a woman." "It's a silly rule," Chardae said. "Furthermore, I dressed as a man and traveled with a group of storytellers. I was never alone. Father, the sights I saw, the stories I could tell you of far-off lands and strange peoples would hold you spellbound many a night. But I can see you still do not approve, so I shall speak of it no more. I am not here to argue with you." "Then what has brought you back to me, little one?" Jamal asked. "Word of the death of the Sultan's wife, and the troubles it has brought for the people of Persia reached me. How does the Sultan fare?" And so Jamal told his oldest daughter of his difficulty in finding the Sultan a suitable wife. As he finished, he said, "And now I have failed in my duty to find someone enough like Khalila to please Malik." "Perhaps that is the reason for your failure, father. I knew Khalila. She was her own person. No one could ever begin to match her." "Then what hope is there?" the Grand Vizier exclaimed. "Do not worry," Chardae replied. "I shall marry the Sultan." "Have you lost all of your senses?" Jamal shouted. "You are nothing like his first wife. He'll divorce you in an instant, and then you shall be disgraced, just as the women before you have been." "Do not be troubled, father. I have a plan. I returned to this land with the hope of marrying Malik. I have had enough traveling for one lifetime. Now I wish to marry." "Then marry another. Marry someone who will not divorce you and leave you in dishonor." But Chardae would not be swayed. "I do this not only for myself, father, but for the women of Persia. You have told me of the Sultan's vow to marry and divorce every woman in the land. I cannot allow him to bring such dishonor to my sisters." When Jamal realized he could not persuade Chardae to drop her plan, he said, "Very well, you are as stubborn as ever, but since I have no other bride to offer, I will present you to the Sultan tomorrow. But please tell me your plan." "In a moment, father. First there is something I must ask of my sister." Chardae turned to her. "Diana, will you agree to help me with my plan at the wedding and afterward? Otherwise I may fail." Diana agreed eagerly. She had sorely missed her sister in the years that Chardae had been traveling, and did not wish to see her dishonored, so Chardae explained her plan to avoid the Sultan's wrath. The next morning Jamal entered the court of the Sultan, who was in a foul temper. "You have been gone for a year, Jamal," Malik said, without the pretense of formality. "Have you found me a new wife?" "O great Sultan, rule forever," Jamal said politely. "I present to you my own daughter, Chardae." Malik was shocked as the Grand Vizier's daughter entered the court. Malik shouted, "Are you mad, Jamal? Have you forgotten my vow never to love again? Your daughter will be dishonored before the sun sets." But before Jamal could reply, Chardae spoke up. "Sultan, it was my choice to marry you. If I do not please you, I will accept your decision." Malik glared at her. "No woman alive can please me. You would be better off to tie a millstone around your neck and jump into the sea." Chardae's composure was not shaken. No matter how hopeless it may be, I still wish to marry you." "Very well," Malik said. "We shall be wed this very day." And so it was. That night after the wedding, Diana was still helping her sister move in when Malik entered the room. He ordered Diana to leave, but she begged a favor of the Sultan. "O great Sultan, rule forever," Diana said. "I ask one thing. My sister has been away quite some time. Before I leave her, please grant that I may hear some of the tales of her travels and the people she encountered." The Sultan thought about this. "I see no harm in it," he said. "Very well. If Chardae is willing, she may speak of these travels." "I am willing, dear husband," Chardae replied. And so she began to tell a fascinating tale about a peasant boy and a magic lamp. Diana listened with great pleasure, and as the tale grew in excitement, even the Sultan was anxious to hear what happened next. But just as the tale reached the most exciting moment, Chardae yawned. "I grow weary," she said. "I will have to finish this tale another time." "But I must know how it ends," Malik insisted. "I am truly sorry, dear husband, but I cannot keep my eyes open a minute longer." "Very well," Malik allowed. On the second night, when she finished the tale of the magic lamp, both the Sultan and Diana applauded. "You must tell another," Diana insisted, and the Sultan agreed. This time, Chardae told the tale of a young man who discovered a carpet that could fly and take him on incredible journeys across great distances. Once again, just as the story was at its most suspenseful moment, Chardae yawned and insisted she must sleep before continuing her tale. "All right," Malik said, "but you must promise to tell me how it turned out tomorrow night." On the third night, Chardae finished her tale, and this time it was the Sultan himself who demanded to hear another. So Chardae began a third tale about a smart young lad who outwitted 40 thieves. And again, at the most exciting moment, Chardae begged to be allowed to rest, and the Sultan agreed. And so it went, night after night. Each time Chardae finished a tale, Diana or the Sultan insisted she tell another. And each time the story reached its most exciting point, Chardae would stop for the night. As the days passed, Chardae faced many situations in which her diplomatic skills as a sultan's wife were tested. Some of the time she succeeded brilliantly, surpassing even Malik's expectations. At other times, she fell short, not being as well trained in the art of ruling as Kalila had been. Whenever Chardae failed, Malik would take her aside and say, "I would be well within my rights to divorce you." But then he would remember the tale Chardae had told the night before, and he would be so anxious to learn the outcome, he would forgive her. Time passed and Chardae made fewer and fewer mistakes, until her skill at aiding Malik in ruling surpassed that of Kalila. Soon Malik took to asking Chardae to repeat some of her tales to visitors from foreign lands. News of the Sultan's wife and her fascinating tale spread throughout the world, but not once did she ever repeat a tale she had not yet finished telling to Malik. The stories Chardae told lasted for 1,001 nights. When she finished her final tale, Malik said, "Time has proven you, Chardae. You are nothing like my beloved Kalila, but I have come to love you nevertheless. Let us produce an heir to signify our love," and so they did. For the rest of his days, the Sultan ruled with fairness and justice, just as he had done in his youth. And so it was that the kingdom of Persia was saved. The Sultan's wife, Chardae, came to be known as Scheherazade, which means savior of her people. The tales she told were written down and came to be known as the Arabian Nights.